Billionaire's driver exposed. The heartbreaking secret she discovered at 3 a.m. In the stillness of the night, moments ticked by like a ticking bomb, waiting to explode. The shiny black SUV rolled silently down the dimly lit streets of Silver Oak, a wealthy enclave where whispers of fortunes exchanged over martinis hung thick in the air. But inside, Sarah, the driver, felt an unsettling churn in her stomach, a feeling that clawed at her insides. It was just past 3 a.m. when she glanced at the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of the billionaire she worked for, smirking in his sleep, as if he harbored secrets deeper than his bank account. But tonight felt different. A soft thud echoed in the back. At first, it sounded like a trick of the mind, but as she pulled over to check, her heart raced. Fumbling the handle, she swung open the door, revealing an unexpected sight. A pristine envelope nestled among the expensive luggage. It was addressed to her employer, but the return address sent chills down her spine, an abandoned mansion that housed nothing but rumors and regrets. What in the world would a billionaire want with a rundown place like that? As she hesitated, the shadows in the trees seemed to breathe, closing in around her like a tightening noose. The hairs on her neck prickled. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, half expecting the darkness to respond. Daring to peek inside the envelope, her fingers trembled as she pulled out a photograph of a woman. Her eyes wide with fear, a stranger, yet somehow familiar. A nagging thought echoed in her mind. What had she stumbled into? Before she could process the weight of the moment, the phone buzzed in her pocket, shattering the silence. It was a message from her boss. "Get back in the car. Now." Panic washed over her like ice water. The urgency of it made her chest tighten. What did he know that she didn't? What dark secret lurked behind those wealthy walls? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the distance, the sound of approaching sirens began to wail, pulling her back to the chilling reality. She could see the flashing lights reflected against the tall, extravagant homes, and a sense of urgency settled in her bones. Sarah's mind raced, heart pounding. She slammed the envelope shut and leaped back into the SUV. But the questions surged like a tidal wave within her. What was her boss hiding? And why was she suddenly caught in the middle? The stakes felt higher than ever, and she was deep in a game where the rules kept shifting. As the lights danced around her, the looming question dug its claws into her thoughts. Was she ready to find out the truth, even if it led her down a dark spiral? The engine roared to life, breaking the tension as Sarah clutched the steering wheel. Her mind screamed at her to drive away, to escape this growing nightmare. But she couldn't shake the image of that terrified woman from the photograph. What had she gotten herself tangled in? With one last glance at the rearview mirror, Sarah shot down the empty street, desperate to distance herself from the sirens echoing through the night. Her pulse raced, each beat punctuated by the questions swarming in her head. What was at that mansion? Who was the woman? And most importantly, why did her boss want her to turn back so urgently? As the SUV glided through the serene neighborhood, the lush trees loomed like silent sentinels, guarding expensive secrets. A bead of sweat trickled down her neck. Every shadow felt like a looming silhouette, watching her every move. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. "Pick up, it's him," her instincts urged. Reluctantly, she answered, her voice barely a whisper. "Hello? Why are you not in the car?" His voice was low, dripping with annoyance. "Did you find something?" "Yes, I stop. Just get back to the house," he interrupted sharply. "We'll talk about it there." Confusion twisted in her gut. "Talk about what?" "I found an envelope, it doesn't matter. I said to come back." His tone left no room for argument. Her mind raced. The unease coursing through her thickened. Something was very wrong here, but instinct kicked in. No, I'm not coming back until you tell me what's going on. What's at that mansion? Silence hung between them, thick and tense. She could almost hear the gears in his head grinding. You don't need to know. Trust me on this. Griping the phone tighter, she felt the walls closing in. Trust him? After finding a photograph that hinted at something sinister? Sarah, please. His voice softened, but she could hear the urgency creeping in, the subtle tremor betraying his calm exterior. Things are complicated. It's dangerous. A surge of anger pushed her forward. You dragged me into this. You can't silence me now. Consider this a warning, he said, voice steady again, but it held a threat beneath the surface. You start digging and you might not like what you find. And neither will I. Before she could respond, the line went dead. The phone slipped from her fingers and thudded onto the passenger seat. The darkness of the road yawned before her, pulling her deeper into its mystery. Images of the photograph flashed in her mind, the woman's wide eyes staring back as if pleading for help. But she was on a precipice, unable to decide whether to leap into the truth or retreat back to safety. With a resolve she didn't know she had, Sarah headed toward the mansion, her heart racing. The sirens faded, but the memory of their wail echoed in her mind, a reminder of the urgency. She would uncover what lay buried beneath the surface, whatever the cost. As she turned onto the gravel driveway, the silhouette of the mansion loomed ahead, a dark testament to hidden stories and whispered scandals. Did she just catch a glimpse of a figure moving in the window? The world around her blurred as she gripped the wheel tighter. The moment had come to confront her fears, but would she be ready for what awaited her inside? The gravel crunched under the tires as Sarah parked, the sound echoing in the stillness. The mansion stood like a fortress against the night, a mosaic of shadows playing against its ornate architecture. She inhaled deeply, her chest tightening as she stepped out, the cold air biting at her skin. With each step toward the front door, unease gripped her soul tighter than ever as she approached. The heavy wooden door loomed above, intricate carvings spiraling into a daunting entrance. She hesitated, glancing back at her SUV, a momentary retreat that tumbled through her mind. But she knew she couldn't run away now. Not after everything. Pushing the door open, it creaked ominously, a harsh sound that shattered the silence. Stepping inside, she was greeted by dimly lit hallways, walls adorned with portraits of stern-faced ancestors whose eyes seemed to follow her every move. Each step felt heavy on the polished floors, an echo of the pulse pounding in her ears. Her phone buzzed again. She fumbled to answer it, heart racing. Where are you? It was her boss, his voice laced with a mixture of anger and fear. I told you, I'm at the mansion, she whispered, fear creeping in. I have to know the truth. No, get out of there now. His shout echoed through the phone, a warning that knotted her stomach. It's not safe. It's dangerous, Sarah. You don't know what's at stake. But she did know. The photograph haunted her, a compass guiding her deeper into the mansion's secrets. I'm not leaving until I figure out what's going on. Damn it. You're not prepared for this, he shouted. The line went dead again, and she stood frozen, the weight of his words sinking in. She felt as if a thread was unraveling, one she couldn't ignore anymore. And, as if answering her doubts, a low thud reverberated from somewhere deep within the house, a sound she couldn't dismiss. Every instinct in her told her to flee, to run back into the safety of her vehicle and never look back. But she forged forward, each stride powered by an urgency that was becoming unbearable. Following the noise, she moved down the corridor, shadows pooling like dark secrets in each corner. Her mind flashed back to the photograph, the woman's terrified eyes tugging at her conscience. She wouldn't stand aside while someone else suffered. As she rounded a corner, she caught a glimpse of movement, a figure slipping behind a door at the end of the hall. Sucking in a breath, she crept closer, heart racing faster than her thoughts. She reached for the doorknob, anticipation mingling with dread. Turning it slowly, a rush of cold air greeted her. The room beyond was empty except for a flickering candle casting chaotic shadows. On a table sat an open notebook, papers scattered as if someone had left in a hurry. Her fingers trembled as she picked up a piece of paper. The words scrawled across it made her breath catch in her throat. Secrets. Names she recognized. Connections that twisted around her thoughts like a noose. Someone was playing a deadly game, and now she was in the center of it. Just then, the floor creaked behind her. The sound was unmistakable, a warning she couldn't ignore. Swiveling quickly, her heart dropped. A figure stood at the door, eyes glinting in the low light, shadowy and intense. "Who are you?" she gasped, fear washing over her in waves. But before the figure could reply, the lights snapped off, plunging her into darkness. A wave of panic surged through her. What had she walked into? As she fumbled for her phone, its glow flickering in the void, she realized she didn't just stumble onto secrets, she had ensnared herself in a trap. And she wasn't the only one who had secrets to keep. What awaited her in the dark? The darkness swallowed her whole, the air thick with uncertainty. Sarah gripped her phone tightly, the faint light barely piercing the pitch around her. Every second felt like a lifetime, her breath quickening as shadows danced along the walls. "Who is there?" she called out, her voice unstable, a fragile echo in the abyss. The figure remained silent, tension hanging heavily in the air like an impending storm. A shuffling noise broke through the silence, and she could feel the presence shifting closer. Her heart hammered like a wild drum in her chest. "Show yourself," she cried, desperate to maintain control. Suddenly, the lights flickered back to life, illuminating the figure standing before her. It was a man, tall and imposing, his face partially shadowed. An unsettling smile twisted on his lips, sending an icy shiver racing down her spine. "Welcome, Sarah," he said, his voice dripping with a calm, almost sinister charm. "I've been waiting for you." Her instincts screamed danger, but curiosity anchored her feet to the floor. "Who are you?" she demanded, trying to sound brave even as anxiety gripped her throat. "Just a friend," he replied smoothly, stepping forward. "But we both know friends come in many forms, don't they?" Before Sarah could respond, he grabbed her wrist, his grip surprisingly firm. Panic surged through her, and she jerked back, trying to break free. "Let me go." "Oh, but I think you're too intrigued by the secrets of this place. You're not leaving just yet." His eyes zeroed in on hers, and she could sense a hidden layer of intentions swirling their mischief, perhaps malice. A flicker of recognition sparked in the back of her mind as she remembered the names from the notebook. This man was more than a stranger. He was a piece of the puzzle she desperately needed to solve. "Why are you here?" she demanded, her voice steadier now. "What do you know about the photograph? Why were you watching me?" He chuckled softly, a sound devoid of warmth. "Oh dear Sarah, it's not about what I know. It's about what you don't know." She stepped back, defiance simmering in her veins. "Try me." He stepped closer, and the room felt like it was closing in around her. "The game's already in motion, darling. You've just entered the board. But some pieces are better left untouched, and some do not know their true colors." Heart racing, Sarah remembered her boss's warning, the heaviness in his voice. She needed to escape, but an invisible force pulled her deeper into the chaos. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Knowledge. Information. You're at a crossroads. Choose your next move wisely," he said, his grin widening as if savoring her confusion. Before she could react, he abruptly released her wrist and stepped back, disappearing into the shadows that framed the doorway. "But remember, the truth can be a deadly ally." The door slammed shut, the sound echoing like the final countdown. Panic washed over her again, swirling and rising like a tempest. With her heart in her throat, she bolted towards the exit. But the direction felt muddled, the mansion's oppressive architecture distorting her sense of location. "Get a grip, Sarah," she muttered to herself, forcing her mind to focus. She could not let fear dictate her actions. Suddenly, another series of low thuds emerged from a distant corner of the mansion, echoing through the walls. She froze, eyes darting toward the sound. Who or what was generating that noise? With resolve flooding back into her veins, she took a deep breath, heart pounding with adrenaline. What lay ahead could unravel everything she thought she had figured out. She had to find out. But as she moved forward, the strange man's warning echoed in her mind. What deadly secrets awaited her in this labyrinth of terror? And just how deep did the conspiracy go? The corridor stretched out before Sarah, a winding tunnel of dim light and shadows, the air thickening with every step she took. Each echoing thud of her heartbeat pounded rhythmically against the chilling silence, and she could still feel the weight of the man's gaze, heavy on her back like a shroud. Thoughts raced through her mind, jumbling together in a frantic muddle. Who was he? What did he want from her? She hesitated at the intersection. The low thuds returned, resonating from the direction on her left. They were soft yet insistent, like a heartbeat of the mansion itself. Taking a bold step toward the source, she swallowed hard against the knot of fear tightening in her throat. Curiosity tugged at her, a powerful force coaxing her further into the darkness. The walls felt slick and damp, a stark contrast to the previous tension. The atmosphere shifted slightly as the noise grew louder, morphing from distant thuds to something that resembled scraping. She pressed on, her phone clasped tightly in her palm, the screen casting a weak glow in front of her. A door loomed at the end of the hall, slightly ajar, faint light seeping through the crack like a beacon in the night. Had she stumbled onto something? Could it be a way out? Or perhaps another puzzle piece in this maddening game? "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. There was no answer, just a deeper silence falling around her, thick and heavy. Drawing in a breath, she pushed the door open just enough to peer inside. The room was filled with dust and decay, furniture draped in sheets that looked like spirits from the past. It was only when she caught movement out of the corner of her eye that she jumped back, nearly colliding with the threshold. A figure emerged from behind an old, tattered curtain, a young woman with wide, scared eyes staring back at her. She looked disheveled, as if she had been hiding for too long. "Please, don't be afraid," Sarah said, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "Are you okay?" The woman stepped forward hesitantly, her fingers trembling. "I heard sounds. I thought it was him coming back." Who were you hiding from?" Before she could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the door, heavy and ominous. Sarah's heart sank. They were not alone. "Quick, hide," she hissed, shoving the woman toward the peeling curtain. The woman nodded and ducked behind it, her eyes wide with terror. Sarah's mind raced. Could it be the man she encountered? What did he want? She pressed against the wall, breath hitching as she listened intently. The footsteps grew louder, closer, the murmur of a voice just out of reach. "Where are you, Sarah?" The voice was smooth, mocking. "I hope you haven't wandered too far with no time to spare." Sarah glanced around for anything that could provide an escape. The windows were boarded up, and the door felt like a trap rather than a way out. In the corner, she noticed an old, rusty vent. But the voice was just outside now. "You've made it this far, but the real game is just beginning." Adrenaline surged through Sarah as she approached the vent, scanning for an opening. The door creaked ominously, the sound cutting through her resolve like an icy blade. "Think, Sarah." A pulsing urgency in her mind pushed her forward. The stakes were higher than she ever anticipated. Information was a weapon in this place, and she was running out of time. The footsteps stopped, and her heart lurched. He was right outside. With no other option, she dropped to her knees, praying the darkness would conceal her as she clawed her way into the vent. What secrets hid beneath the surface of this mansion? And would she find the truth before it swallowed her whole? As she fought to push through the constricted space, a cold wind whipped past her, carrying with it a whisper, "If you think hiding will save you." Sarah's heart raced as she heard a laughter that sent shivers down her spine. The game was only just beginning. She had to move fast before the hunter became the hunted. But what lay on the other side of this escape? And would she unravel the web of deceit or fall deeper into the trap? The vent was narrow, cool metal pricking her skin as Sarah pushed forward. She barely knew where she was heading, but anything felt better than facing the voice of that man. The darkness enveloped her like a thick fog, each breath echoing like a drum in the confined space. She forced herself to move faster, heart pounding in time with the taunting laughter still echoing in her ears. Her fingers scraped along the metallic edges, flinching at the sudden jolt of pain. The laughter faded, replaced by silence. Had he gone? Was she safe? Doubts gnawed at her, but she couldn't linger. She had to find a way out before he reclaimed control. A faint glimmer of light appeared ahead. Relief washed over her as she redoubled her efforts, crawling toward it. The vent sloped slightly downward, and soon, she felt cool air against her skin, mixed with the smell of old dust and something more sinister like rust and decay. Suddenly, the vent jolted. Careful, a whisper echoed in the dark. It was the voice of the young woman she had just met. He can hear everything. The air in Sarah's lungs felt heavier, her instincts screaming that she needed to keep moving. Yet, curiosity tugged at her. What do you mean? Who is he? His name is Daniel, the woman replied, her voice barely more than a breath. He is not just a man. He knows everything about this place and everyone in it, like the shadows are his eyes. I don't even know how long I've been trapped here. This was madness. Sarah could barely process her mounting fear, but the woman's words painted a picture that tightened around her chest. What kind of power did this man possess? There's no way out through here. Sarah struggled to keep a calm tone, but panic was rising. If we get caught, we won. The woman interrupted, a spark of determination igniting in her voice. You have to trust me. Just keep moving. If we can reach the other side, there's a chance. Sarah crawled faster, sensing urgency behind the woman's words. She could almost taste freedom, but it felt so far away. Suddenly, the vent shifted again, a quick tremor rippling through the metal. A sound like metal scraping on metal filled the air, and then a loud thud reverberated. Someone was approaching. Footsteps echoed outside the shaft. They were heavy, deliberate, and they sent waves of dread crashing over Sarah. Have you ever asked yourself why you two are alive? The voice called, lingering in the air like poison. You think you can escape this easily? The woman gasped quietly, and Sarah felt her heartbeat quickening. We need to go. Now. Summoning her strength, Sarah pushed herself through the vent, the light growing closer. And then it hit her. The light was blinding. She emerged onto a flat surface, falling with a thud onto a cold, tiled floor. Groaning, she looked around, finding herself in a dimly lit room, far removed from the musty confines of the vent. Old portraits lined the walls, their eyes seemingly following her as she breathed heavily. But the woman was nowhere in sight. Where are you? Sarah's voice was shaky. Silence simmered in the air. Yet again. Still think you can run, Sarah? The mocking voice cut through the darkness. You'll find that every step you take leads you back to me. Panic surged in her veins, and she shot to her feet. The room, it felt like a trap, an elaborate maze designed to push her to her limits. But why was it aimed at her? Sarah, it was the young woman's voice again, but it came from behind a door on the other side of the room. Help me. With her heart racing, Sarah sprinted toward the door, fists clenched. This was it. Whatever awaited her on the other side could seal her fate. She hadn't come this far to turn back now. As she flung the door open, darkness lingered on the edge of what lay ahead. But it wasn't just the darkness that made her stomach twist. It was the sudden realization that this was no ordinary game. Lives were at stake, and she was sinking deep into a nightmare. What awaited her beyond this door? Would she find the woman in time, or would she lose herself in the twisted game of deception? The door creaked open, and Sarah was engulfed in shadow. It smelled stale, like something long forgotten. Her heart raced as she stepped inside, every instinct screaming for her to turn back. Yet, the faint sound of crying drew her deeper. I'm coming, she whispered, her voice trembling. The room was vast, bare except for a single flickering bulb that hung overhead, casting eerie shapes on the walls. Chains hung from the ceiling, their metallic links clinking softly, sending chills racing down her spine. The tension was palpable, wrapping around her like a vice. The young woman's pleas echoed softly, guiding Sarah through the darkness. Sarah, over here. The voice was frantic, desperate. Sarah's breath quickened as she darted in the direction of the sound. Shadows danced before her eyes, playing tricks on her mind. Was that a figure moving just out of view? Clenching her fists, she pushed onward. Where are you? Behind the curtain. She spotted the fabric, tattered and gray, barely billowing in the stagnant air. With trembling hands, she grasped the edge and pulled, revealing a small alcove. The young woman was there, bound and terrified. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. Hang on. I'll get you out, Sarah urged, fumbling with the knots that held her captive. But before she could loosen the binds, the air shifted. A chill crept over her, and the heavy weight of malevolence pressed down. The room felt alive, vibrating with danger, and Sarah's instincts screamed again. Daniel knows everything, the girl whispered urgently, glancing towards the shadows. He'll come for us. Just then, the bulb flickered violently, casting deep shadows that twisted against the walls like serpents. The laughter returned, shrill and mocking, reverberating off the stone. Oh, how naive. Did you really think you'd find a way to escape me? Come on. Sarah growled, struggling against the ropes, her panic rising when she felt them tighten. I'll free you. No. ELL here. We need to leave. Now. The young woman's eyes were wide, darting around the room as if she were already cornered. The laughter grew louder, and the shadows pressed in like a storm. Run. Sarah shouted, feeling urgency explode inside her. I can't manage this alone. But the girl's words came out in a frantic rush. No, we can't. If we separate, but Sarah didn't have time for hesitation. The curtain fell back into place, enveloping them in darkness again as she felt a rush of adrenaline. She spun and dashed towards the opposite wall, adrenaline dulling the pain from her heart. Sarah. The girl screamed again, but it was too late. Sarah spotted a narrow door at the far end of the room. With her heart hammering, she headed for it, driven by fear and instinct. The laughter crescendoed, a haunting symphony. You think there's a door for you? Think again. The world beyond is worse than you know. Sarah slammed against the door, desperate hands trembling on the handle. It wouldn't budge. The shadows twisted, a mass of darkness moving toward her. Please, she cried, desperation clawing at her throat. Just as she turned to face the source of the laughter, a blinding light flickered on, illuminating the space. It hurt her eyes, forcing her to squint against the brightness. And there he stood, Daniel, the orchestrator of this horror. A sinister grin stretched across his face. Welcome home, Sarah, he said, his voice smooth and dangerous. You never really left, did you? Time seemed to slow as Sarah's mind raced. What did he want from her? Why was she drawn in? Would she even have a chance to save the girl? Her pulse roared in her ears as she stood paralyzed, heart pounding in the trap of truth. The young woman's voice pierced through. You have to make a choice, or we both lose everything. What did that mean? And the shadows closed in. The shadows danced closer, swirling like phantom hands aiming to pull Sarah into their depths. Panic gripped her, a vice closing around her chest. Her instincts told her to fight, to escape, but Daniel's voice sliced through the chaos, smooth and dark. Don't you see, Sarah? He taunted, stepping into the harsh light. This is your destiny, your reality. You've always been part of this. She swallowed hard, sweat beading on her forehead. Memories rushed back, fragments of their past together, moments she thought were buried. But there was no time to dwell. The young woman's cries sharpened her resolve. I won't let you take her. Sarah shot back, defiance igniting within her. A flicker of anger flickered behind Daniel's mocking smile. But you're forgetting one crucial thing. I hold all the cards, and all the secrets. He leaned closer, and his breath, stale and foul, made Sarah recoil. You could have been so much more if you just played the game. I'm not your pawn. Sarah spat, adrenaline fueling her bravado. Daniel's eyes darkened, penetrating her soul. We'll see about that. Decide, Sarah. The girl, or your freedom. Can you live with the choice? Behind her, the girl trembled. "Don't listen to him. Please, we need to work together." But Daniel's laughter echoed, a cacophony that wrapped around her like smoke. Tick-tock, time's running out. Darling. She felt trapped, two fates hanging in the balance. Did she dare to bring life into the cold chamber or save herself? It felt like choosing between the sinking ship and the rocky shores of despair. "Your past will always catch up to you, you know," Daniel continued, his voice low and sinister. "You can't escape it." It hit her like a punch the nights she locked herself away, terrified of confronting who she really was. All the pieces of her life had led her here, and now, facing this twisted reflection of her choices felt like a cruel joke. "Sarah." The young woman cried again, desperation flowing through her voice. "You have to choose, please." Taking a deep breath, Sarah turned away from Daniel's grasp. There had to be another way, an option he wasn't seeing. "I won't play your game, Daniel," she shouted, forcing herself to stay focused. Behind her, she felt the chains rustle again, their cold touch whispering against her skin. "Feisty, aren't we?" Daniel teased, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his expression. Slowly, Sarah edged toward the girl, the sound of chains raking against each other only increasing the tightness in her throat. "Think, Sarah. What do I know?" Panic surged, but she squared her shoulders. "What am I missing?" Something shifted. The air grew thicker, as if Daniel's facade was cracking. "Let her go," Sarah demanded, pouring every ounce of courage into her words. But Daniel stepped back, eyes darkening further. "And the truth? Is that what you want?" His smile morphed into a sneer. "I can give you a truth you're not ready to handle." The girl gasped, confusion mingling with desperation. "What truth?" Suddenly, the walls around them shuddered, a low rumble reverberating through the floor. Sarah glanced back at Daniel, determination coursing through her blood. No matter what secret he held, she could not let fear consume her. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady, now louder than even Daniel's wicked laughter. "Whatever it is, I'll take it. Just let her go." The shadows danced furiously as the laughter faded into silence, leaving only the palpable tension hanging in the air. Sarah felt her heart pounding louder than ever. This could be the moment, the line between freedom and eternal darkness. And then, an explosion of sound shattered the stillness, the chains rattling with unhinged energy. Daniel glowered, fury radiating from his every pore. "You think you can handle the truth? You have no idea what's at stake." As the walls shook violently, Sarah braced herself, feeling the very world tremble around them, inching closer to the brink of chaos. A choice was coming, and she could sense it, a truth lurking in the shadows, waiting to explode. What would be revealed when the dust settled? Would they be free, or ensnared forever? The shockwave hit, shaking the ground beneath them as if an earthquake had erupted right there in the heart of this dark place. Sarah stumbled, adrenaline pulling every muscle taut and her senses heightened. The sound of rattling chains mixed with the echo of Daniel's laughter, each note sharp enough to cut through the tension. The girl gasped, her body quaking, eyes wide with a fear that mirrored Sarah's. "Hold on," Sarah shouted, reaching out for the girl, desperate to bridge the widening gap between them. But Daniel moved like a shadow, always hovering, always lurking. "You want to save her? Then you'll have to confront the truth first." His voice dripped with malice, and in that moment, Sarah could see the chaotic power he wielded. It threatened to swallow them whole. The walls shuddered again, and a crack appeared, jagged and raw, spider webbing across the stone like a visceral reminder of the turmoil within. Fear curled in Sarah's stomach. What awaited them beyond that crack? There was no turning back now. "Sarah, please," the girl pleaded. "Don't let him win. We can fight this together." The urgency in the girl's voice tugged at Sarah, swelling within her like a tide, a fierce will to overcome this abyss. She could sense that something monumental was about to unfold. The shadows flickered not just with darkness, but with a potential for liberation. "Enough games," Sarah roared, her heart pounding. "I refuse to bow to your manipulation." Daniel, his eyes sparked with fury, and Sarah felt the raw energy in the room thicken. "You really think you know the stakes?" he hissed. "You're just a child playing a game with the adults. That's where you're wrong," she countered, feeling power surge through her. "I'm not afraid of you anymore." As the ground trembled, Sarah's mind raced. What do I know? What am I missing? Catching a glimpse of the crack in the wall, Sarah realized it wasn't just a fracture but an opportunity. A portal to the truth Daniel was so intent on hiding. Choking down her fear, she sprinted toward it, every step fueled by a wildfire of determination. The room twisted around her, shadows clawing at her heels. "Stop her!" Daniel yelled, freezing for a second in disbelief. But as if awakening from a long slumber, the shadows came to life, reaching out with spectral hands to snag her ankles. Sarah fought against them, feeling their icy grip yank at her with a savage intensity. "No!" she shouted, shaking off their grasp. "I won't let you hold me back." With one last lunge, Sarah dove through the crack, the world spinning around her. The girl's voice echoed in her ears, a haunting reminder of what was at stake. And then, suddenly, the darkness released her. She tumbled into a cavern that felt alive, pulsating with an energy that tinged the air with a sharp tang. All around her were remnants of memories, fragmented images swirling like ghosts' whispers of past lives, past choices. She gasped, recognizing scenes from her own history interwoven with faces she couldn't quite place. There were truths here, buried beneath layers of deception and denial. "Sarah." A soft voice broke her reverie, and she turned to find the girl standing at the entrance of the crack, safe from Daniel's reach for now, but shaking with anxiety. "You need to find it. Find the truth before he comes after you." Her heart raced. "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, urgent desperation clawing at her throat. "The truth about you," the girl responded, her eyes wide with an understanding deeper than Sarah had anticipated. "It's the key to save us both." As the darkness began to close in around the cavern, Sarah realized the weight of her situation. Would she uncover the hidden secrets that bound her fate to Daniel's? Or would she be consumed by the very shadows she'd been fighting so hard against? Time was running out. She had to choose wisely, and she felt the pressure building. The truth was almost within reach. But at what cost? What would happen when she unearthed the reality of her past? Would it liberate her or shatter everything she thought she understood? The words hung thick in the air, almost tangible, wrapping around Sarah as she took in the weight of the girl's declaration. The truth about herself felt like a fragile glass, or beautiful yet dangerous. She had spent too long running from her own shadows, burying memories she didn't want to confront. "I don't even know what that means," Sarah cried out, the frantic desperation edging into her voice. "What truth? What could possibly save us?" The young woman's expression shifted, determined yet fearful. "It's about your past, Sarah. There's more to you than you realize. You were always part of this game." Panic bubbled within her. "What do you know?" She needed answers, clarity, something to hold on to as the darkness closed in around them. But the girl couldn't offer reassurance. The trembling in her voice told Sarah that whatever truth awaited, it wasn't easy. Suddenly, echoes of laughter rattled the cavern. Daniel's voice broke through the veil of shadows. "You think this charade will save you? You're only delaying the inevitable." Heart pounding, Sarah forced herself to move, shoving past the fragments swirling around her. Each step drew her deeper into her history. Faces flashed before her, some familiar, others just silhouettes. Moments of joy intermingled with pain, memories of laughter tainted by betrayal. She stopped, hands pressed against her temples, trying to sift through the chaos. "Focus, Sarah. You have to find it." The girl's voice broke through the din, a lifeline in the tempest. Something clicked in Sarah's mind, sparking a flicker of recognition. "My family," she whispered, barely comprehending what she was about to unveil. "What happened to us?" The shadows wavered, as if some greater force was listening. Sarah's breath caught. It was time to confront the past she had been running from. "I was hiding something," she murmured, a growing horror swelling deep inside her. It hadn't been mere coincidence that she felt so drawn to the mansion. Go on, the girl urged, pushing her to dig deeper. Sarah reached back into her memories, grasping at pieces like a lifeline. Images of family disappearances and secret meetings danced through her mind. Secrets held within a wealthy facade, veins of darkness threading through their lives, illusions woven so tight they had suffocated her. Daniel is connected to my family. He is not just a stranger. He is... The truth crashed upon her like waves breaking against a shoreline. He is part of my past. My family, it was all connected to him. As clarity washed over her, the room swirled with energy, and she turned to face the girl, now filled with newfound determination. I know the truth now, she said, voice stronger. I'm not afraid anymore. Whatever happens, I'll face it. Suddenly, Daniel emerged from the shadows, his smirk darkening, full of malice. You think you've unlocked something profound? You've only scratched the surface. With a defiant scream, Sarah stepped forward, the weight of her revelations fueling her strength. No more games, Daniel. I'm taking control. A gasp escaped the girl behind her as Sarah charged through the shadows. You've tormented us long enough. Foolish mortal. His laughter echoed in the cavern. The darkness around them shifted, seeming to swell with malevolent energy. You think you can stand against me? Watch me, Sarah shouted, summoning all her courage and drive. Recalling the names and faces from her history, they echoed like a symphony, reminders of what she had fought to protect. The ground shook again, and a crack snaked along the cavern floor. This ends now, she screamed, her voice slicing through the shadows like a beam of light. She was not just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every shadow that had ever been cast in the mansion. With every ounce of her spirit, she reached into the whirlwind of truth, pulling pieces of her past together, feeling the weight lift as they coalesced. I will not be your pawn, Daniel. I bring the light. As if responding to her declaration, a brilliant light exploded from within Sarah, illuminating the cavern in vibrant shades, enveloping Daniel in a breathtaking glow. He howled, mouth agape in disbelief, as the pieces of long-buried secrets rose like specters. The girl gasped, stepping closer. You did it, Sarah. I did, Sarah breathed, astonished by the power within her. The shadows dissipated, retreating into the corners as the light pushed against the darkness. Daniel's form began to shift, writhing in the brilliant illumination. You cannot do this. You need me. No, I don't, Sarah shouted, finding strength she hadn't known she possessed. This is my life. With one last burst of energy, she thrust her hand out, and Daniel's form shattered, scattering like ash on the wind. In his place, the cavern transformed into sunlight, flooding the space with warmth and joy. The girl stood beside her, eyes wide in astonishment. You did it. You broke the curse. Sarah laughed, tears of relief spilling down her cheeks. The shadows had bowed before her, and a new dawn awaited. You're free. We're free, she exclaimed. The world around them shimmered with possibilities. The girl reached for her, hands trembling as they intertwined. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for believing. Sarah smiled, feeling lighter than air. We can rebuild, she said, knowing her past would always be a part of her, but it wouldn't define her. As the sunlight bathed them, she understood her true strength. She had faced the darkness, embraced her truth, and conquered it. Side by side, they stepped forward, taking the first steps into the brilliant light of a new beginning. And with every step, a fresh chapter unfolded full of promise and hope, writing a story that would inspire others battling their own shadows. But before the screen flickers off, dear friends, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and keep the magic alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your involvement makes all the difference.